makes me feel like a man.
You want every team to lose any other game? Sorry. Bailey Zappi just put another dime. You know what? Whoa, time out. Are you kidding? That's what I'm gonna try to drop a mic. Welcome to the Warner Brothas Podcast. Keenan right here. We got Kyle. We've got Branndon. We thought Duke was going to be here, but Duke's a hazard. Couldn't make it. We don't really know what's going on. Last time we thought this was
playing hide and seek.
Didn't know. He was probably playing hide and seek with Timmy because Timmy just that one time dissipated. Who had no idea. But
Yeah,
how are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty good.
Good.
I'm great. Vibes are good.
Good.
I just want to say we were talking before we did our little pre-pod per usual, and Branndon, you brought up Biebs in the Trap or Birds in the Trap.
Biebs in the Trap. Justin Bieber mixed with bees in the trap mixed with birds in the trap. That's wild.
There's a song with
track
Nav called Biebs in the Trap.
Oh,
Biebs in the Trap.
Okay.
So I commonly get them messed up, but
I was like,
Birds
are we
in the
mixing
Trap
2 Chainz with Justin Bieber with Travi?
Kind of sounds like it. But that album has no skips. I think Astroworld's production's better. But man, it's right there. And I think we had the same talk actually when we did Travis's last album, Utopia. I think we ranked Travis's albums. And
shout out to you guys for that review.
For real. That would be depending on the day, 1A, 1B. You could talk me into either one. I do think Astroworld's like production is superior to most albums, but Birds in the Trap is no skips on there. And like Astroworld has its own distinct sound. So
Yeah, they're both very different. Like you said, the production, I will give the production to Astroworld because like there's some beats on there like R.I.P. Screw. That's it's just a phenomenal beat. Obviously it had Sicko Mode on there, which is probably one of the biggest hits of the past 10, 15 years.
It's probably a top 10 hit of the 2010s. I'd have to go through them, but like obviously you got Unforgettable. I mean, this is hip hop in like that range. You've got, if you want to count Unforgettable, but you've got Bodak Yellow for sure. You got Bad and Bougie, and then you kind of go from there. Obviously, you have early on, you have some of Drake's hits, like Headlines was huge, but Sicko Mode obviously went nuts. Yeah,
for sure. A lot of records we could do. I mean, look, we've within the last 24 hours, 48 hours, have come up with like 4 or 5 different lists we want to do. So we'll see where we want to stick the landing with this. Specifically to the 2010s. The 2010s has become a underrated music decade. A decade that's really onto its own self when you consider the streaming era and when you consider all the different types of music that came out. I mean, it's a really different decade to evaluate music-wise, truly.
Like it's like obviously the difference from 2000 to 2010 is crazy because like in 2010 you're really just starting to learn what internet is and things like that. Like obviously it's been around for a little bit, so like since the 80s, I believe, early 80s, but like you're really starting to understand a little bit of internet. Computers are still slow. Then towards the end you get the LimeWire era, and then the 2010s you go in from kind of the LimeWire-ish to like iPhone 3 era to then now in 2020. If you don't have a smartphone, you're a loser. like in 2010, if you had a smartphone, you were him. And then in 2020, if you don't, you're a loser. So
you had a BlackBerry in the 2010s, and you were like Mr. Big Shot.
Listen, if you had a Motorola Razr in 2007, you were him, and you couldn't do anything. You just had, or the Sidekick. that was fire. Shout out to Tay-Rock, by the way. He has a fire bar about a sidekick that he did in like a 2022 battle against New Jersey Twerk. Shout out to Tay-Rock. But yeah, random.
I don't think I told you guys this. But at near the end of January, I signed up for a contest that I think around Super Bowl weekend, I would have had to have gone a month without my cell phone, my smartphone. They would have sent me a lockbox, and I would have gotten a flip phone, and I would have like, had I won or made it a month without a smartphone, I think I would have won 10 grand and a lifetime supply of yogurt or some shit like that. So, or it might have been a year's supply of yogurt. I'd have to look again, but I signed up for it, did not get selected. I was up for the challenge, but apparently I did not meet the criteria. So who knows why, but that would have been an interesting pod topic. That would have been an interesting.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I would have been dead in the middle of it right now, actually. So yeah,
I would have definitely done it. It just would have been very hard to do anything. Could you not use your computer either, or was it just your phone?
I think I could have used my computer, so I definitely could have cheated had I wanted to, but
okay, because I would have just had to use a computer for everything.
Yeah.
Because obviously we do this pod. If I don't have my phone, I can't post like 90% of this stuff because I have to use both. So it would be an only computer, or like the pod wouldn't happen. Live take's not happening unless I use the iPad that I have. But I mean, again, that's kind of like away from the.
No, this was strictly smartphone, and it would have been interesting to go back to the days of like, I gotta search for 1X to send a text or make a call. That would have been interesting. I don't know.
Phone
Maybe
in the windowsill.
Wonder if I would have got a Motor Razor or something like that. Like, I wonder what the flip phone would have been. They probably would have gave the most basic ass one, but
yeah.
I mean,
Kyle, you remember obviously at mom's like old house when we were on mines, where I can say it, no one really knows, but when you had to put the phone in the window, like you had to be up in the window to get the 2 bars. You couldn't have it on the couch.
Yeah, the same thing.
And you gotta pray that the text sends. Like, all right, it's sending. Is it gonna send? Who knows? You get all your texts at like some random time because it has to be in the right spot.
That's so garbage. Like, your phone's not there for 35 minutes. You're like, someone messaged me back? You get 17 messages just from random people. Sorry, I didn't have service. And everyone's like, yeah, we get it. It's okay. Man,
it's like a conversation where you get like 2 or 3 texts a day right there.
No, it really is. Like, you set up time frames. Like I know obviously parents had to go to the dial-up phone and obviously the cord phone, but like, that was its own cord phone era for cell phones, because it really was like, all right, so we've got this hour. Like, we've got this hour. We're in the windowsill, and then you couldn't, like, your parents couldn't be like, what are you doing? Get out of here, like, whatever you're doing or whatever. So it was like phone here, trying to integrate with other things like a living room, whatever, but still trying to hold a conversation. Fun times.
It was always a wild time too after like 8 p.m. when what was it, like the unlimited talk and text would kick in.
That's right. That's right.
8 p.m.
After 8 p.m. it's lit.
Come on. Okay, it's up.
8 p.m. hits, you get that first phone call.
It's up.
Can call anywhere in the United States. Oh, we lit.
You're like, okay, yeah, absolutely. I can call California right now. Whatever. I'm unlimited.
Alaska is.
Well, now, didn't think we were starting with a phone tangent, but you know what? That's the Warner Brothas Podcast for you. Did you guys want to go into, we have hip hop stuff, underrated albums. We're already talking that. We have basketball stuff from over the weekend. It was a pretty good weekend of basketball. We've got our pickup, like, we've got places to start. Where would you like to go with it?
I'll say this. I think we got to at least wait for Duke for the pickup basketball topic. Just because that one we've been waiting. It's been about 3 weeks where we've tried to get that going. Yeah. And either connection or other things, we're in the way of that.
Okay, absolutely.
We could do albums, even though the albums was his idea. But I'm open to whatever y'all want to do. I'm cool with it. We could do. I do think we should start with music in some sort of fashion, though, because we did kind of just start with it. That's kind of been our wave, and then we can end with how we're feeling about the NBA season currently.
Okay, let's talk about these underrated albums then. So,
should we? Let me ask you this before we start. Are we going to generally talk about it, or are we going to rank them?
I always rank.
Well, I mean, just to be fair, it was completely Duke's idea for the underrated 10, right?
Yeah, so I mean,
actually, Actually, go ahead,
I
Brandon. Go ahead,
proposed.
Brandon. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah,
It was you?
I,
All right.
yeah, that was me.
All right, my fault. So in that case, then fuck Duke. We're here.
Yeah,
We're
whatever.
here.
Yeah, we're in it to win it now. Because I proposed the albums like the top 10 because we were talking about. Obviously I was talking about like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Good Kid, Mad City, those ones there. But yeah, let's go into these top 5 to 10 most underrated albums of the 2010s. One thing I got to ask real quick for both of you, did we go pure studio albums or did we have just projects in general, or was it just pure studio albums? I'm prepared for both. I just needed to know where you guys want to go.
I mean, I feel like you could do both because, like I said the other day, like the mixtape era too. Like, there's a ton of mixtapes that honestly were better than a lot of the albums. You know?
Yeah. So, okay. I was just checking to make sure because never know. So
I personally did albums. I did not include mixtapes. Just because I thought that was said in the group chat. But yeah, I mean, who knows where a lot of them fall? You know, there's a lot of people who says it's like a mixtape or a project, but I mean, it's on a streaming service, so it's an album. You know what I mean?
We had a mini debate about Section 80 itself. Like Section 80 is like an album, but it's really a mixtape because you could get it for free. Kendrick says it's a mixtape, but then like other places, it can be said as a studio album, but it's like not first commercial release. So like,
it's most definitely an album. Like by the letter of the law, that's an album. The only difference was it was free for download. So like at the time, it was presented to all of us as a mixtape. But like, I mean, is it an album? Of course that is. Like everything about it's an album. But
yeah, I mean,
so
a
that's
lot
kind
of
the debate
mixtapes became albums for the most part. Like, but mixtapes just became like non-commercial albums for the most part.
That's the era that really started blending it in, like the early 2010s. Like, because before mixtapes were, all right, you're rapping over someone else's beat, blah blah blah. Then it became, that's Kendrick, that's Chance, that's ASAP, that's all those guys who ushered in the new era. That's okay. We're getting our music out. We're making original music, but we're getting it out. And maybe here and there you might get over another beat or someone else's beat, but you know, that was really, you know, I'll call it my era that ushered in that new sound, that new approach to a mixtape, and it really hasn't been the same since. I mean, you still got Wayne, like Brandon, you mentioned yesterday, you still got like the later dedications now where Wayne will still go over people's beats. Those are like the only true mixtapes you really get here and there. Like R&P to Dat Piff, but I remember even a few years ago, like all the releases we'd get on Spotify, they'd still be up on Dat Piff, labeled as mixtapes, and it's like, it's weird how that works, like how people were still releasing shit on Dat Piff and on Spotify at the same time, but and build them as mixtapes.
I think it's like the fact that Wayne still does that because, I mean, in the late 2000s, early 2010s, Wade would take your song and he'd make it 5 times better.
Yeah,
I mean, he would,
now it's my song now. It Wade, you know. Yeah, that's exactly.
I got a
what
feeling, actually, from No Ceilings, but like he actually made me like I got to feel like he turned that into a fire song. Like his second verse on that song is fire.
That whole album. That whole mixtape.
Oh no, it's from front to back. From front to back, it's fire. I was just talking about that's fire.
That is a classic.
Love that song. Absolutely. Okay, Bam, let's keep it going. Sorry. I need Bam to get over 37.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He has 16, 5, and 4 right now at the line. So we're looking good. And then that means we're looking good. And then that means I put in $10 to get 71. So we're looking good. We're looking good tonight. Alrighty. But anyways, so let's each give an album. Brandon, let's start with you. Our underrated album of the 2010s. And if you want to say like a mixtape project, I'm fine with it right now. Project of the 2010s underrated.
What is it? Long.Live.A AP. ASAP Rocky. I think 2012. I feel like that was one of the best albums of the 2010s. Granted, it got national recognition. I just feel like it didn't get enough because from front to back, there's no skips on that album.
That's a super underrated album.
He had probably one of the bigger hits of the early 2010s with Kendrick, Drake,
2 Chainz,
and then 2 Chainz. had the song with Schoolboy Q. He had Action Bronson on there. Like there was just no skips on that album. So I
Then
feel
had the classic, like for the time, One Train. Obviously, you had a bunch of. It was
Yeah.
basically
like a cipher, pretty
it was
much.
it was basically just a track cipher. It was like, hey, we're gonna get 7 rappers on here. Who has the best verse? And I think it's Crit 1 and then Kendrick 2.
Yeah, Crit did kill that. He killed his verse. That actually might be my favorite song off that album, just because the fact that it's just nonstop, just bar after bar after bar.
We're gonna have to at some point, Kyle, do a best verse on that song. Like I could definitely listen to. I think right now, off the top of my head, because like I'm running through all of it. Crit's 1 and then Kendrick's 2, but ASAP's is fire, Joey's is fire, Yellow Wolf, Danny Brown, Action Bronson, like all of them came to rap. So we should definitely do that. Maybe get Andrew Franklin out the woodworks to join in. But
I mean, we still got to continue our part 2. We did 3 features with them that were 2000s based. They were all 2000s verses.
Yeah, it was Swagger Like Us. We had I'm So Hood, and then there was one more. Forever. Yes.
And then we had a 2010s version that we still haven't touched, but I'm pretty sure they're still in my notes somewhere. I still got the notes somewhere, I believe.
Listen, there's so many ideas. There's so many ideas that we have for this podcast here, but then like something like football happens and everything gets pushed back because it's like, well, what else can we do but talk about Patrick Mahomes and everything else big? And now it's like, what else can we do but then talk some tournament and then the NBA playoffs? Like, this is a nice in-between time where we're getting some music in.
We got them boards like that the feds have when they got like a mafia that they want to go after, right? And they gotta like, we got the boss here, we got the capos, we got a board like that of ideas. And honestly, like, I'm not kidding. Over this weekend, like there were so many random ass ideas thrown out music wise in the group chat between Duke, between Branndon, between Keenan. I'm like, I couldn't even keep up. I'm like, all right, like we'll see how Monday and Tuesday shakes out. We haven't even done the pickup topic yet.
Yeah, no, it's
podcast gods didn't want to do that. Branndon, I don't want to step on the one you just gave because when you said it, I thought you were talking about A$AP's second album, which is At Long Last ASAP. That's also a super underrated album that I didn't even have on my list. Maybe I'm just gonna throw it out there now. That's a very underrated album. Do you like the debut better than At Long Last? Because I saw you bumping At Long Last a few weeks ago.
Actually, no, I was thinking of At Long Last. That was his first. I think that was his first like studio album because I think the one before that was technically a mixtape.
Yeah, because it was Live, Love, ASAP, and that's actually, to be completely honest with you, me mentally, that's the one I thought you were going to. That one has Peso on it. That one has What's Up, Get Lit, Roll Up, Purple Acid Drip. Like that one has some. That one has some hits on it too. So that was the one I thought you were originally going with, and then you went with that one, and I was like, I don't disagree with you either there. And that used to be shout out to Caleb Brew. That was his favorite album for a while.
Like 1A, 1B, honestly, because they were both underrated.
Mm-hmm.
That's the perfect example though, because that was a mixtape, right? That was a Dat Piff release. That was a hot new hip hop release, and everyone today probably thinks it's an album. Talking about the kids that came up, they probably think it's an album because it plays like an album. It's all original beats. Yeah. And I mean, very well might as well be his debut album. For all things considered, it is. You know what I mean? But his first studio album would be Long.Live.A AP, the one with One Train, one with Goldie, Pussy Money Weed with Schoolboy Q. That one has grown to be underrated. I completely agree with you. Fashion
At the
Killer.
time, it was big, and then it just has grown to be that. I agree.
Yeah, it just died off. It just I feel like it got flack because I remember when that came out in high school, and that was like for all of us, that was that was
thing. It. That album was it. That was it.
And then
let me give you. Go ahead.
A month or two after that, then you never really heard anything after that. And even mid 2010s, like you have people, in 2015 ranking, their top 10, top 15 albums from the first 5 years of the decade. And that album is not even on there. So.
Yeah.
Let me give you a couple tracks from At Long Last. All right. You got Canal Street on there. You got LSD. You got Lord Pretty Flacco Jody 2, which is a ridiculous song. That's one of my all-time favorite ASAP songs. Electric Body with Schoolboy Q. Jukebox Joints with Kanye and Joe Fox.
That's a great song.
Wavy Bone. West Side Highway. M's with Lil Wayne, which is an underrated Wayne verse.
Fine Wine.
Fine Wine. You got Every Day with Rod Stewart and Miguel. Random ass features on there, but that's a quality album too. I think both of those are slept on, and you could almost say ASAP Rocky as an artist has become slept on over the last 10 years. Obviously, he's kind of dipped out of the limelight.
Yeah.
Now he's Mr. Stay-at-home dad, but he's become underrated. And actually, I'll let you throw one out, Keenan, because I have a segue after this.
You can give that segue if you want. That's fine, and I can go back to it. We're good.
I'm just it's my number one underrated album of the entire decade that I had on my list. It's one of my favorite albums from that decade, and that's Still Striving by A$AP Ferg. And me and Branndon were talking, I think one day before you were even on, I think it was just me, Branndon, and Tim. And we were talking about how A$AP Ferg, who probably was not the best, like A$AP Rocky was definitely the best musical artist in the A$AP clique. And I think it became Ferg over time. Like, I think by the time you got to the mid 2010s, towards the end of the end of the 2010s, it certainly became Ferg. Like, he definitely took his craft seriously. I'm not sure, Brand, you listen to Still Striving?
Oh yeah, I love that album. Hood Pope, Shaba, like that's a very good album.
Let me see. We got Trap in a Dream.
I'm thinking of the right one.
That's the one before. This one's Trap in a Dream, Meek Mill.
Okay.
Into Rubber Band Man with Cam. Into Olympian with Dave East. Into Ah Yeah with Lil Yachty. It's features all the way through, and honestly plays more like a mixtape. But it's an incredible album. It's for me, it's no skips all the way through. Got some remixes on the deluxe, but highly recommend. It's a good New York sounding album. Ferg's in his bag on it, and I think it's the best music he's done. And I think he continued with Floor Seats after that, which is also quality music. But I think Ferg, just in general, his whole entire career has been super underrated. In A$AP Rocky's shadow, really.
Yeah, he's one of the more underrated artists, I would say, for sure. So I'm gonna go with one. Where do I want to start? I'm actually going to start with Childish Gambino, and I'm going to start with Camp. I don't know if you guys have ever heard Camp, but Childish Gambino's Camp, Bonfire with All the Shine, Firefly, Hold You Down. I think that album is fire, and that led in, because I think Childish Gambino was putting out fire for a while. He had like I'm Just a Rapper, I'm Just a Rapper 2 for mixtapes. Kind of had like a Lil Wayne. He had like a Lil Wayne influence. You could hear it. Then he went into Camp, and then you started to find even more and more of a sound with Royalty. Then that became Because of the Internet, which is also another album that was a Grammy. Obviously, I think it won a Grammy. I really like that album a lot. I don't know I think it may be grown to be underrated, but I think at the time it got just a right amount to deserve, because 3005 was a smash, obviously. But Camp, Childish Gambino, I don't know if you guys have heard it, but that album was one of the 10 that I have written down for just albums.
Solid. That's a good album. I've actually heard that. I've listened to it a couple of times. I'm a big Gambino fan.
Same.
And I feel like it doesn't get talked about a lot. Like when you bring up like his discography, like that's not something that's brought up a lot.
People don't really talk about anything before Because of the Internet. Like they talk about like that, then they obviously talk about like his like Awaken My Love that has Redbone on it, and then you have his old 2-pack Summertime Magic and Feel Like Summer. Then obviously This Is America's huge, and like the fact with him, you talk more about his versatility of he can sing, he can rap, he can act. Like obviously he's one of your most talented like just human beings on the planet. So because he can do a lot, but I think him as a rapper is underrated. Personally, for me.
So Camp is the one that was released in like 2012, right?
Yes. I believe it was 11 or 12, but yes.
So I'm about as casual of a Gambino listener as you can be. Like,
yeah,
I definitely started listening to him more Redbone and up after that, right?
Yep.
Anything after Redbone is really when I started paying attention. First time I'd heard of Donald Glover was as a stand-up comedian, probably around 2010.
I didn't even mention him as a comedian, but yes.
So like 2010, 2011, like I see him here and there on Comedy Central, whatever. I'm like, dope. Like this guy's funny. Pretty sure he's related to Danny Glover. I'm not sure if that's true, or maybe that's just what I thought at the time. I don't know if that's true. Whatever. Mm-hmm. Then around 2012, I forget if someone hit me up or if I just started gradually hearing like, yeah, this Childish Gambino has a better album than Drake. Take Care at the time. And I'm like, word? Like, yeah, da. And this was at Linden. Shouts to Duke, where I met Duke at Linden. Like, people are like, yeah, like, then I find out like who it is, that it's actually this Donald Glover guy. And I'm like, huh. Like, I never actually took the time to listen to him at the time. I probably did hear a few tracks and was like, whatever. But the fact that people were actually actively saying that, whether it was in circles or on the internet, but that was a real buzz at the time. Like, yeah, Drake might have the album of the year, but this kid who's underground, who doesn't even rap, he really might have the real album of the year, the true album of the year. So I do remember, because that's got the blurry cover, right? Like, it's a weird ass cover. It's like in the trees or some shit.
Yeah, it's
like
in the
camp,
it's in trees. Like, no, the whole thing he literally plays like a summer camp, and then that power comes on, and then the story he says at he has like a 3-minute like kind of story at the end, which is actually, I think, is kind of dope the way he like lays it out. Basically, it very short. He's on this bus wanting to talk to this girl, talks to the girl. The girl he expresses his feelings. Then she ends up telling her friends, and then they kind of pick on him for it. And so he was like, from that, and what I learned was just cut out the middleman and not do that, because if it's for everybody, then it can't be, no one can take it out of context, or no one can like things like that. So it was actually a kind of like a really cool story that he had at the end that I thought was very interesting. But
interesting. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean, that kind of encapsulates the 2010s in general, like why it's such a unique period. Because I think if Gambino comes along in 2008, yeah, maybe he gets some buzz, but he probably overall is just kind of like thrown to the side. Whereas the 2010s, definitely a much more accepting era as far as like you could come from anywhere. If your music's dope, it's going to get spin. Where in the 2000s, especially, and then, the late 2000s, that really wasn't the case. But the internet era really put a shine on artists like Childish Gambino. So
yeah. No, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Who wants to get one next?
I've got a 1A and 1B. It's by the same artist. Again, just like the first one. So it's Big Sean. The first one's going to be Detroit, 2012, the mixtape.
I think that's grown. I think at the time it was great, but it's grown to be underrated. Detroit is fire.
Like that, I think that might be, like, all jokes aside, I think that might be his best work. Out of anything he's put out, like that's.
I'd agree with
project to project, to me, that I think that's his best. And the second one, if you say what I'm thinking of, is going to be number 2. But go on.
Dark Sky Paradise.
I think that might be 2, but I Decided I also think is underrated too.
I Decided is good.
I think I Decided has his, but
that's a good one. So for me, it was Dark Sky Paradise, just because the fact that I think it has I like Deep with Lil Wayne. Obviously, like we were discussing the other night, it's got Play No Games on there.
Research.
Blessings. Party Next Door's on there.
I Know with Janae, One Man Can Change the World. Obviously his hit. Sorry to interrupt, but I was just naming.
Oh no, you're good.
I was reading it, but no, that album actually has like legitimate hits all over it, plus really good music along with those hits too.
But I agree with I Decided too, because he had the song with Migos. He had the song Jetpack Over the Balcony with a Dream.
No Favors with Eminem, and then he had Light with Jeremiah. That was a great intro. Like, obviously his intro was just like him driving somewhere, but that was really the intro song, and that was a great intro. I think that 2017 was a great year for music.
Same time part.
100%
with Janae.
Yeah.
I think that album. I gotta say, I Decided. I think I Decided is the best received Sean album that I can remember. The one that, like, I for sure know, like, not only got the play that his other albums did, but also was received as, okay, this is dope. Like, it's not just commercial, it's also dope. On that same lens, Detroit 2, I think that was in the pandemic year. He was less popular, right? He was less relevant. So that almost by default makes that an underrated album too. But, you know, obviously a different point in his career. So it's funny because,
I think
you know,
a lot of
you just keep going.
Okay, no, I was going to say I think if people if you went back and told people, hey, listen to Detroit, I think a lot of people would come out of that after listening to every single track and say that's by far his best body of work. And it's super underrated because I remember when it came out, this was I want to say sophomore year of high school.
I think it was I think it was 2012, 2013. So our sophomore to junior. It's weird that I can say our because we're the same age, but I'm not used to saying like, our.
I remember that coming out on Spinrilla. That came out on Spinrilla on Dat Piff, and I listened to it. And the first song that I listened to was the song with J. Cole, 24 Karat of Gold. And then he's got the song with Juicy J on there. You know, he's got all these other features, and just like nobody. I feel like nobody gave that tape the recognition it deserved because I think that's by far his best music.
That was actually on my list too, because I did mixtapes and I did albums, and that was actually on my list for just on the top 5 to 10 mixtapes of the 2010s, not even in the underrated portion. That was on mine because, like, reading the features, J. Cole, Juicy J, French Montana, obviously have a story by Young Jeezy and Snoop Lion at the time, Royce the 5'9", Kendrick Lamar, Chris Brown, Jhené Aiko, Wale, Wiz Khalifa.
And then he had James Fauntleroy, Mike Posner was a feature on there too.
Yes, like that is a feature list, and all of them hit.
It's funny that you say, you know, if you go back and listen, you probably come out, because I had that same experience within the last year where I did go back and listen to it because I'm like, I haven't peeped this in a while. I remember really liking it, and I was like, God damn, there's a lot of quality on here. And same thing, that was for sure a mixtape that played more like a mixtape at the time, actually. I don't know how to explain it, but it did, even though it's all original music. But now it is on streaming. You can play it as an album, which is dope. But it's funny. By the way, French Montana on Moolah, right? Ain't nothing more important than the
Moolah.
He's got my favorite line on there. My favorite line on the whole album. Got that China white. Call it Jeremy Lin. Shouts to Linsanity. By the way, Mac and Cheese 5, little disappointed in it. Not as good as his last projects, but still good overall. But I still got to listen all the way through. There's a lot of tracks. But back to Big Sean. We discussed him in the last podcast. We discussed him today. And I thought it was funny, Brandon. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter over the weekend, but someone put like, what's the worst bars you've ever heard in a song? And Big Sean was heavily...
Yes,
he was heavily quoted in the cringe bars.
Disrespectful. Like...
That's the thing about him. I think that I believe this wholeheartedly. I believe Control had effect on his career, but then I also think he just has a lot of cringy bars. Like OJ Gloves, you must have quit. Like
there was worse ones than that though. That was just
no. That was literally just the first one that came to my head. That was like, sometimes it's like, I don't know about that.
You're pushing the envelope.
Like you really like you must quit, but must quit. Sean, I don't know about that one. Eminem has the same thing, like where I feel like he just tries to say anything at this point, and then he just.
You could give. I mean, Sean's whole Mercy verse is questionable. Just the ass bars, like anyone could have came up with that shit. Ass Quake,
my weed on it. That's an ashtray. Say yeah, don't we do this?
Don't do it. Say day ain't. I work the
long nights to get a.
But we let it pass because the whole entire song as a whole was fire. Like we even let 2 Chainz get away. Like 2 Chainz, the way he flowed on that last verse, It was fire, but he wasn't really saying anything crazy. Like 2 Chainz has got like 40 better verses. That
I'm talking hot at the same time to the champagne on the airplane.
He came on so hot. He came on so hot. We're like, oh shit, what the fuck is this? But he really wasn't saying anything at all.
No, just because the beat, just because
drunk
the
and high at the
beat
same
came
time.
in. Yeah, I was gonna say just because. Okay, now catch up to my campaign. You're like, oh
They gave
my
him-
god.
They gave him that ISO. They gave him that ISO like it was like Wayne on We Taking Over. You know what I mean? I'm like, but hey, it still became a classic and a legendary verse because of that. But it's definitely just kind of average. To
shout out to
slightly above
you,
average, baby.
Kyle. I want to say either it was that song or Click. I think it might have been Click. You said, have you heard this new song called Click? I want to say it was Click, but it might have been Mercy. I was in shout out to culinary class. I was in my culinary class as a sophomore, just as like one of the easy classes that you basically take, basically one of the filler classes. And then I instantly listened to it there. So shout out to you for giving me that update. I want to say it was Click.
Shout out to me.
But I think it was Click, because I think Click was 2012, if I remember correctly.
I think Click was 20. I think it might have been 13 or 14.
It could have been later, honestly.
Underrated
So,
song.
like,
Very underrated. Yeah, that album was actually shit. That's another the whole Good Music album.
yeah,
That is underrated. I didn't even think of that one.
Do whatever.
Yeah.
No, that good music album was. That was a really good one. That one had The Morning. I like The Morning a lot on that.
Mhm.
2 Chainz has a dope remix to that too.
Yes, he does.
Yep.
Yes, he does. That was in the era where I kind of liked 2 Chainz a little bit. Then I got a big booty, so I got a big booty. And that's it. And that's just at the time when I was like, I was finding rap for the first time. So anyone who didn't only spit bars, I was not into. Like at that point, I was only listening to like Funk Flex, freestyle, Sway in the Morning freestyles. If you couldn't rap, then you were not there. Music wasn't a thing.
Who gives a fuck about Future? I'm listening to this new Earl Sweatshirt, dog.
No, absolutely. No, that literally was like, I was not listening to Future at all. I was like, when I listened to his
Fuck about
Cypher,
Dirty Sprite too.
the cocaine and the Fanta, I was like, okay, shut up. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. I was like, get this guy in 2012 out of here. Future's not even good. Just give me Machine Gun Kelly. He can rap at least.
A bar that just popped up in my head since we were talking about questionable bars and 2 Chainz came up on I Love Them Strippers. He starts out, Big Bank take. Well, it's like, let's play Big Bank take Little Bank. You were looking at a shark in a fish tank. Like, bro, what are you talking about?
Oh my god. Yeah, I love them strippers. Yeah. No, it's 2 Chainz is another person who, like, I think when Pretty Girls Like Trap music came out, I think that's kind of where things changed for him again. Like, obviously, like, he was obviously titty boy early, and then like he changed, and then he went into like this weird pocket, and then afterward I think that's where he like truly was like rapping again, like rapping again. Like his freestyle over DNA before that album was fire on the Leakers. If anyone's never heard that, listen to that. I'm kind of a freestyle guy, so
I think that was after. I think that was after Pretty Girls Love Trap music, though.
No, he was. It was right
Or was
before.
He was promoting it.
Pretty girls
Okay.
like that trap music. That's me. About to drop it on you June 16th. That was like he was freestyling at the end. But
I do remember that.
so, but no, he was fire over DNA. But yeah, 2017 was a great year for music. By the way,
Very
it was
good,
a
yeah.
great year. Because
That
got
trio,
Big Sean, you got Kendrick,
2016,
you got
2017, 2018 is a hard 3-year era to compete against. You can take any 3 years. I mean, I'm not going to say any 3 years in music, but especially out of the 2010s, give me 2016, 2017, 2018. That's
10, 11, 12, you've got, like, if you're going through, we got Recovery, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Good Kid, Mad City, Take Care. So, I mean, already kind of... I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying like that 2010, 11, 12, that's
a power five right there.
That's a power five.
That's tough. I'm 2013 was Born Sinner, but you get Sideline Story, which is good, not great. I'm trying to think of any other albums that come off the top of my head, but no. Watch the Throne was in that era too. So like you've got that 2010, 11, 12 was fire too. Not that you're saying it wasn't, but like I'm just to bring up another 3 year. That was a fire stretch. When you have My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Good Kid, Mad City, you really can't fail after that. So, and I believe one of the first ASAP projects and things like that. But yeah, Kyle, do you have another? Before I go on more of a tangent, do you have another underrated album you want to say, or if not, I got plenty more.
Let's hear yours first.
Okay, so the next one that I'm gonna do is Joey Badass Before the Money. I think this is right after coming off of 1999, which is a classic mixtape, which is one of the best mixtapes of the 2010s. Absolutely.
I love Joey Badass too.
I'm a huge Joey fan, and that Before the Money has Save the Children, Christ Conscious, Like Me, Big Dusty. That album is fire, and that was coming off of, as I said, coming off of 1999, which was a classic. R.I.P. Capital Steez, but like, yeah, that's one of my favorite albums of all time. Honestly, I love it. True
I'm not
rapper,
familiar, so I cannot comment.
True rapper, like a true rapper. So
1999, then Summer Nights, then Before.
And the Before the Money, and then it goes into All American Badass, and then 2000, which was one of my favorite. I want to almost say it was my favorite album. It was my favorite album on the list. I think 2000 was great. Gave you that feel again, but it just gave you like the mature feel of it. But 1999 is still and to me, his best project. I think if you go down 1999, there's just too many hits. But I also think that one gets the recognition it deserves, or at least it did. I don't know if people really listen to Joey like that much, but I did at the time got the recognition it deserved, because that one put him really on like, oh, who is this guy?
I love Summer Nights. Summer Nights for me was like another great listen.
That one I think's underrated though. I do, because I don't think many people talk about Summer Nights like that. Like, but it again, Summer Nights is super good too, super good. So I agree.
Joey's even got he's got some like loose cuts that like should have like, he's got a song called 95 Bends. I think it's 95 Bends.
Mm-hmm.
And
Unorthodox. I don't know if you've heard that with DJ Premier, I believe.
That's a good song. I have that. I have pretty much anything that he's released. I have that. And there's some songs that he's released that have went so under the radar, and I'm just like, this is quality music.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks. Kyle, if you can hear us now, we can no longer hear you. You're no longer visible. You're just no longer a person.
Actually, so the name of the song was 500 Bends.
500, yes. No, absolutely. Listen, Joey really is one of them ones. Honestly, he is so good, and he's one of those rappers that I don't think gets as much recognition as he should. I remember he had this little beef with Troy Ave, and then he went on Sway, and then
it's Troy Ave.
It's Troy Ave with the classic feel. Yeah, no, that was not a Troy Ave.
I definitely listened to some Troy Ave back in the day. I definitely listened. Look at the difference. I definitely listened to Troy Ave around 2014 for sure.
I'm telling you, I was only like, it was Joey, it was King Los, it was Kendrick. Like it was only King Los. I was gonna say it was only rappers. You were not. If you weren't a rapper, you were not coming around me. I'm telling you. Like I had a song over here like Shot Callers by French Montana. For some reason, love that song. I still do, but like there was just like random ones thrown in here.
That was where you drew the line with Shot Callers?
Yeah. No, for some reason there's just like songs that you just throw like in. And then I honestly think Migos started to get me out of like only pure rap. Not that Migos can rap, don't get me wrong. Like they all can rap, but like that started to get me into like the flow of, like you don't have to only be a rapidy rap guy for me to like you. Like, cause I remember the 2016 cypher with Kodak and 21 and everyone like that legendary. Yeah. That like became like one of the biggest ciphers. Hated it. I absolutely hated it to start. I don't
21
mind it now.
7. Oh, yeah. Took my bitch to the stove. Oh,
So
yeah.
ran out of soda. I'm trying to cut this Yola.
It's like, what are you talking about?
Who the pick this little sorry? You're like, okay, Kodak. And then the worst part about it is they have like just Little Yachty who's not saying too much, Uzi who's just kind of like bouncing, and then they throw in Denzel Curry who's actually rapping, and you're like, wait,
Denzel Curry is a very underrated rapper.
yes. You're like, wait a second, why are we throwing in Denzel Curry with these guys? It just doesn't fit. Like, what are we doing? I don't know, man. That's just me.
Are you a Mick Jenkins fan?
I don't listen to enough to say that I am, to be quite honest with you. I have I've heard some, and I definitely like what I've heard, but I haven't heard enough to say that I'm a fan.
Mm-hmm. He's another solid artist.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's so many artists. Well, while Kyle's trying to figure out his connection, I'm gonna bring up a mixtape, and I want to see if you've heard it and if you feel like it's underrated or not.
Okay.
Are you a big? Actually, no, I know you've heard this one, and Kyle can come in afterwards and he can hear this. And if you hear this, if you can hear us, Kyle, we can't hear you, so just letting you know. But Sorry for the Wait. I think that's heavily underrated.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Lil Wayne went over rolling in the deep and body. Oh my goodness.
He had that. He had Grove Street with Lil B.
Yep.
Sorry for the Wait, the song.
Yeah, Sorry for the Wait. My Last. He went over My Last. Big Sean's, which I like Big Sean's and Chris Brown on that thing, and then I like other. Hey Kyle, if you're back, we're talking about Sorry for the Wait as being an underrated project.
I think I am back, and I have a reply to that instantly, which is that mixtape to me, I agree, is underrated. Like, even at the time when it came out, it was like, all right, this ain't No Ceilings. This isn't Dedication 1 or 2. This isn't The Drop 3. But like it's got some joints on there, especially what is it, Grove Street with Lil B.
Yeah,
that was my shit. Especially the Lil B verse. But like, I think that's aged into a classic. Like, it's definitely, to me, it's underrated, but I was surprised to see the social media buzz about, like, when it re-released on Spotify a couple years ago, maybe about a year ago, like, people were hype about it. Like, so I think it's turned into a classic Wayne project from that era. Because, I mean, if you think about it, Branndon, I know you like, and you've mentioned, like, you like the later dedications, but I can't really pinpoint you much for the dedication series after 3.
Yeah. I think so. D4 to me was like the last, because like Dedication 5, I listened to it, and I think it's like the quality is so much like, because that was at a point too when Lil Wayne was going through all this shit with Birdman.
T-shirt, talk second, skeet first.
Truck Fit Wayne was a sick era.
Yeah, I was gonna say that one had
not the good sick either.
I think D4 had Green Ranger with J. Cole.
The original
J. Cole murked that.
The original Uproar.
J. Cole murked that.
Yes, like that, and that's a song. I feel like that's a song that should be well more known. Like, they asked Lil Wayne about it. Lil Wayne was like, "I did a verse with J. Cole." Like, when did that happen?
He forgot about it.
Yeah, he forgot about it because he's worked with so many people. But like, there's people that are like, so a buddy of mine is a huge Lil Wayne fan, and we started talking about mixtapes, and I'm like, all right, what's your favorite song, like, off of any of the mixtapes? And he's going through, and I'm like, well, have you heard Green Ranger? And he's like, Green Ranger? And I'm like, yeah, it's him and J. Cole. It's like, Wayne's never done a song with J. Cole, and I'm like, yes, he has. 2012, and I think it's criminal that people don't know that song, because I think that's a great song.
I agree. Green Ranger's fire. Green Ranger's really good.
It's definitely not recirculated enough. Like you said, I couldn't even tell you the last time I heard it. I haven't gone out of my way to listen to it either, but like, it's definitely not brought up enough. It's definitely not spun enough. So yeah, I completely agree. It's a fire verse from both of them too. Like, again, that was Wayne's weird era, like his Truck Fit era, but Wayne goes off on it. Cole certainly like steals the show on it to me. Yeah, no, that's a great like pre-peak J. Cole verse. Like that was still Rock Nation. I'm still making singles for the people. J. Cole and yeah.
Oh,
That
speaking
was
of,
an early peak into the J. Cole we're getting now.
did we hear J. Cole's like snippet 2 minute? Did anyone hear that? If you haven't heard like the Miss Me, like what
I brought that up Thursday and y'all hadn't heard it. None of y'all had heard it.
No, I thought you. Yes, I wasn't. I knew you had. I couldn't remember if you said that it was coming out or you had heard it already. But I listened to it, and my God, am I excited for the fall off even more than I already was. That
boy's hungry.
We need J. Cole music. We need it.
Yes, and I just wanted to say, Kyle, because you brought out the drought.
May, June, or July.
May 12th. I'm just kidding. It won't be on May 12th. It's Mother's Day. It'll be on May 10th.
We need it one of those. We need it one of those 3 days or one of those 3 months. We need it. We need it for summertime.
I think it's going to be in May because then they're going to use half of the songs on the playoff like instrumentals because that's what they love to do. Like whatever hot album at the time, they'll just throw it on playoff instrumentals. They did that with Damn. They did that with the off season. John Moran, I'm on my Grizzly. But no, they're. The Drought 3 just
I'm on my Grizzly.
I just wanted to mention that has so many fire songs. I think my favorite song might be Upgrade. We were talking about it was like Put Some Keys, Seat Down Low, Get High, Rule the World. I'm also a huge fan of Upgrade. There's way too many. There's way too many I could go into, but Kyle, do you have another underrated album? I know we're kind of going longer winded on these, so we don't have to go through a full list, but I'm loving the dialogue. I really am.
I'll give you 2 of the same artist. One's a collab album. I'll give you the collab album first. MihTy, Jeremiah, and Ty Dolla $ign. It's more like an EP, honestly, because I think it's like 8 tracks, but that's an underrated project. 8, you're in, you're out. Good music, good R&B vibes. Good summer music, good club music, and you got just some good slow jams on there. I think there's a Chris Brown feature in there, maybe a French Montana feature. Very good, very good. I wish they'd actually follow up with that. And then Jeremiah, his Late Nights album, really his Late Night series, but Late Nights, the album, super underrated. That's one of the best R&B projects of the 2010s. I thought it was underrated at the time. It's very solid, very solid. It's got vibes all the way through. Let me go through the track list for you.
I stayed away from R&B because that would have added like 25 to 30 more projects for me. But go on, what you're saying, Branndon.
He had a song with Twist. Didn't he have a song with Twist on there? Woosaw? What was that? That might have been after.
Yes.
Okay.
Juicy J and Twista. Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy. So it's got Planes with J. Cole, classic. Into Past That. Into Impatient with Ty Dolla. That's a great song. Into I don't know how you say it. OUI. Ain't no. How's it go?
Oh, we.
Ain't no we. Oh, we. Yeah. Ain't no we without you and I. And then Drank into Amigos track. Into Feel Like Phil. I don't really remember that one, but then you got a good Janae feature on there with Worthy. Don't Tell Him with YG. And then, you got Woosa with Juicy J and Twista on there, too. But that's a super underrated album.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great album.
It's got tons of vibes on it. Jeremiah, my favorite Jeremiah moments, actually, when I think he was in Chicago on tour, and he sent out a fake Jeremiah on stage. Because he was, like, sick or some shit. I'm like, what'd you think? Like, he could just have your voice, too, all of a sudden? Like, obviously, the crowd started booing. I'm like, that's a ballsy move. Like, that's either a boss move or a complete asshole move. It's a little bit of both in a way.
It's both. It's absolutely
definitely
both.
Lingers more on the asshole move side, though.
Yeah.
Sending out a body double.
Yeah.
I think Trump did the same thing with his wife too during his presidency.
He did actually.
I think he sent out a Melania body double.
He did actually, but you can get away with that more because she doesn't do anything. He's actually performing. He's actually doing this for the fans. Like you can't just do that. But who am I to tell?
Trump had so many hilarious moments during his presidency. Like it was daily content.
Yeah,
it was daily content, and it was obscene at the
the
time.
Shit
but it was
that he
also
would
hilarious.
say.
Yeah, He would say some ridiculous shit for sure.
It would almost kill me when he called it wrong. Why you gotta say it like that?
He's a comedian. He's just a comedian who dressed up as our president for 4 years, who's probably going to dress up as our president for another 4 years.
And he just bullies people.
We're going to live through 8 years of Donald Trump at president, which is crazy. Because people liked Donald Trump back in 2009. When Mac Miller came out with Donald Trump, you're like, hey. You're like, hey. Up like Donald Trump. Okay, Ray Shremmerd, we got you.
Ray Shremmerd. Oh God,
we got you. Another album that's actually a little underrated. I think Shrem Life. I think Shrem Life was fire. But
yeah, Shrem Life won. Yep.
I actually have them on my underrated list. Different album though. That's a topic for another day.
I did one thing,
or another minute, I should say. One
album I wanted to quickly mention. Then you can go into that. The album I want to mention, shout out to Wale, his Gifted album, I think is fire. Just to read some of the tracks, you've got Bad, and then you got the Bad remix with Rihanna, Love-Hate Thing, Rotation, Simple Man, 88, Vanity, Sunshine, Clappers. Like, Gifted was gifted.
Very,
pun
that
intended.
Was a very good album.
Gifted was gifted. Pun intended. And Wale is a really underrated.
Wale's in the Hall of Fame off his No Hands verse alone.
With my no hands and no dollar,
He's
I
in the
don't
Hall of
dance
Fame.
and I'm a Roscoe, I'm a fucker.
Even like Ambition, like I feel like Ambition was like I feel like that's a hella underrated album. Like I feel like Ambition like is just an amazing album, and like
Meek has my Ambition. Meek might be my favorite Meek verse. It's one of them. I love that Meek verse. I absolutely love. And Maybach Music also has some underrated group projects. But go on, we can talk more about Ambition. I was just thinking about there's some self-mades that are fire, but that Meek verse, Only Hope I Have was selling. Like I love that Meek verse.
Even Ross's verse on that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. While we're speaking about Meek, actually, I didn't end up including this on my list because I feel like he was too big of an artist. So this one falls under the category of it's an underrated Meek album, but it's not an underrated album in general, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not compared to the ones that were on my list, but Wins and Losses by Meek. I feel like to me, that's like his second best project to me. I think Championships is his best project.
Are we just talking like only albums, by the way? Just wanted to make sure we clarify that. Like his best, like
yeah.
His
project
when
I was speaking about it just barely, I wasn't including the Dream Chaser series necessarily.
I just want to make sure that we're on the same page because I don't think I think he has better mixtapes than that album for sure. But that's just my opinion. But go on
for sure. And I haven't listened to the Dream Chaser series in forever, so I mean, it definitely flows better than probably a lot of his later albums, but I think there's a lot of great music on Wins and Losses. And it just seems like people, when it comes to ranking his albums, it seems like people rank that near the middle or towards the bottom. And to me, I think that's just rapping ability. I think that's right up there. And I think Meek, just album to album to album, if you go from his Dream Chaser series to Dreams and Nightmares, and then just throughout his career, every single album, he gets so much better lyrically. And that's the case with a lot of rappers where they obviously get sharper and whatever, but like Meek, it's noticeable. Like Meek can spit with whoever now. And you couldn't say that maybe 10, 12 years ago. So not on my list, but it was an honorable mention.
And that was coming, I think that was one coming off of, was that coming off of Championships or was that coming off Dreams Worth More Than Money?
It was in between. It was before Championships.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. It was coming off Dreams Worth More Than Money. That's coming off of What's Your Name? My name Nick. Where are you from? That's coming off of
shit.
What's your name? My name Nick. You're like, okay. Yeah. All right, Nikki.
When they were flipping what was that? That was supposed to be like Notorious Thugs, right?
Yeah.
That was supposed to be like mirroring that.
Baby.
That verse is funny. That verse is hilarious. But no, it's got Heavy Heart on it. It's got 1942 flows.
Yeah, I like that.
Goddamn, what else? I'm sitting there talking about how much I love this album.
I like Young Black America.
Tory's on there. Yup.
Wins and Losses is really good. I like Fall Through personally. Glow Up is a banger. Ball Player is another banger.
Save Me's a tough song.
Mm-hmm.
Left Hollywood. Price Made It From Nothing with Tayana and Rick Ross. Ball Player with Quavo. That's all right. Yeah, Young Black America. Glow Up. Fall Through. These Scars.
We in this when we go.
We Ball with Thug. But 1942 Flows might be my all-time favorite Meek song. It's up there. It's top 5 for me for sure.
That is a good song.
Fuck That Check Up. But yeah, I think that's a super underrated Meek album. Whether you want to put it up there with the other projects in 2017, whatever.
I'd give it underrated in general. Like,
right? That's how I feel about it.
I would.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of MMG albums are underrated in general. Like, just all their artists.
Yeah. Especially Wale. Like, Wale's become Mr. Underrated. And I feel like he kind of always was, really. Like, even in that era, you're thinking of him after Meek, after Drake, after Sean, after all those guys. And he was right in that class. He was right in that internet era.
Yeah,
like he's someone wave and all that. So
he's someone that like you think of with Ab-Soul, like when he should have been bigger than that. Like Ab-Soul's a super dope rapper, but his career and how he actually marketed himself was more in the underground territory, just like him being a super dope lyricist, making music for him and not. But like Wale does the super dope lyricist stuff, but also makes really good music, like has some hits like all over, and just like he's like talked about more with Ab-Soul, but really could be mentioned more with someone, rest in peace, but someone like a Mac Miller, was someone who was really underrated rapper to me. I think he got the credit as an artist, but I think he's a little bit underrated rapper. Like when you get on actual tracks, like there's multiple tracks with him. If you get on actual track, like The End Is Near, him and Ab-Soul, a song that probably anyone listening to this podcast may have never heard before, I would suggest listening to it. Both verses are fire.
An amazing song.
Yeah, no, I trust that you've heard it because like you've heard mostly everything that I've ever heard in my life. But The End Is Near.
I don't know where. Listen, I think I listen to a lot of music, and then Branndon is like how the fuck did you listen to all that music in 1 decade? And not even from that genre. Like it's hip hop, it's R&B.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I listen to this pop shit over here. I listen to this country. I'm like, yo, how do you have enough time in the day to listen to all this?
So it's bad because like I don't know if I've told y'all this or not. So when I get in my car, when I connect my phone to Bluetooth, it tells me how many songs I have in my music library, just in Apple Music alone. I have close to 30,000 songs in my Apple Music library.
That's crazy.
Oh shit!
And that's not including SoundCloud, like all the mixtapes and shit. Like, so I've got probably 50,000 plus, give or take. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit under.
That's crazy. See, that's crazy. For me, it's like 5,000 or 6,000. Like I used to listen to a super wide variety, and now it's like closer in. But everything that I listen to, I know. So like lyrically, I can like pull from anything. So but also I also have just like the random Rolodex of like radio songs that I know too. So like I'm not as widespread as you and like know as much as you do like musically, but yeah. So like when I said The End Is Near, I feel like no one else that listens to this will have heard the song other than you, and I trust the fact that you listen to it. It's a fire song, by the way. So The End Is Near, Ab-Soul and Mac Miller. Please listen to it. It's really good if you like rapping.
And they did multiple songs together. Like they did Matches off of Watching the Movies with the Sound Off.
Another underrated album, by the way. I think that might be one of Mac's best albums. Faces. Max just has an underrated project. I think his Faces mixtape is fire. But yeah.
It's incredible. 2 things. One, my liked songs, I have 15,410. So not Branndon numbers, but it's up there. And then if you put mixtapes with that, maybe it gets up to 17. I'm still probably under 20 though. So still not Branndon petty numbers. But talk about Mac Miller, where he started and where he ended up before he unfortunately passed. Like he grew so much as an artist. Like very much like Tyler, honestly. They kind of had almost the same glow up. Like obviously Mac was a little more serious, but he was still like in his kid, like having fun back when he still came out. Obviously, he was like 19, but like
I was like, Kids
where
is a
he
classic
went, like
mixtape to me. That I
yeah.
love Kids.
A lot of people in that age group from that era, like, you know, probably 14 to 19 to 21 in that era, like will swear by those early Mac mixtapes.
Mm-hmm.
But
And there's a lot of people that
like,
don't know like some of the loose cuts. Like if you go like the Macadelic, like the song that he did with Lil Wayne,
Fight the Feeling.
yeah, with Kendrick Lamar. He had the song "Thoughts Off a Balcony" with I don't remember who was on there, and even off of Watching Movies with the Sound Off, Red Dot Music with Action Bronson, amazing song.
Oh,
amazing.
No, I love that. Might be
that's
my
a
favorite
ridiculous Action Bronson verse.
I was gonna say that might be one of my favorite Action Bronson's verses. After rapping, take
I'll
my
say
people
this.
out for octopus. Yeah, nah,
I was off Mac for like a few years. Like after he first came out, what was it? What was his first project? Blue Slide Park?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I'm like, all right, this isn't really what I want to hear from Mac. And I would listen to him intermittently and then really started picking back on him like right before he passed. And if you would have told me like in 2011, 2010 that, you know, this kid who very much raps, like I don't think he really showed off much of his artistic side. Like he would have some songs where he was vocalizing here and there, but mostly it was rap. And he was, I believe, on Wiz Khalifa's label, and you know, it very much seemed like an understudy of Wiz. If you would have told me he was going to be making
that he was really starting to like music bag, and also like his 7th project, but go on.
And if you would have told me he would have became 7 years later, 6 years later, whatever it was, if you would have told me he would have became closer to Kanye than Eminem when it comes to this music shit, I would have been like, you're fucking lying. You know what I mean? Or Kanye to Wiz Khalifa. Because that's, I mean, really, him and Tyler both became more of a Kanye artist than they did, you know, a rapper, or wherever Tyler was heading with his whole skateboard shit. So, you know, if you would have told anybody back in 2010 the type of music they both ended up making, you probably would have looked at you like you had a third head or some shit. So
my favorite part with Ariana and Dang with Anderson .Paak off of Divine Feminine, you wouldn't have assumed that when you're listening to like Best Day Ever.
No,
you wouldn't have assumed that he gets from Best Day Ever to that. But again, that's years, and that's the maturation of artists, which is what you love to see in artists, which is what I feel you miss from a lot of the mainstream ones today, because today they kind of pick their sound and just roll with their sound.
Yeah, they stick with it.
And they just stick with it. I mean, it works. I mean, you're going to get hits out of it. You're going to get fire music out of it. And then you're going to get, obviously, your fans are going to be happy, but because fans look now as like they want what they want. Like if I want Amigos verse, I just want the triple entendres, and then something, I want Quavo to be catchy on a hook. Like just the triplets rather flow rather than you want Quavo to be catchy on a hook. If you're listening to Lil Baby, you want Lil Baby. Like there's no other way to really put it. You just want Lil Baby. You don't really want him to fully branch out, but it's really good.
Petty, question for you on that topic. All right, it's a little bit of a pivot, but I don't think we really talked about it. What's your opinion on For All the Dogs from Drake?
I wasn't impressed. Like I thought it was decent.
Right.
Like it just felt like it was rushed. Like, I mean, let's be honest too. Drake's music quality has gone so fucking downhill too. Like he gets on majority of these songs and he doesn't even try anymore. And it's like him going from like a song, for instance, Gold Roses with Rick Ross, like a song like that, to where, you know, he gets on a song and, you know, he can rap, he can paint a picture, you know, stuff like that, going to like counting that money for fun. Like it's just, I don't know, like and people eat it up, but I didn't really, I mean, there were some decent songs on there that I've listened to like a couple times, but I didn't think it was all that great.
I kind of agree. Like, I wish Duke was here because we could all have this debate, because I know Duke really likes that album, and it is good music. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not bad music. I'm just not sure how it ages. I'll be honest, I haven't really heard much from it other than First Person Shooter. That's the only one I really hear played
you hear that because of
out
Cole.
and about.
Yeah, because of J. Cole.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
I got something I want to bring up right after this, Kyle. We talk about this album. But
for sure. And real quick to the first person shooter point, my point to Duke at the time was, you know, if this is 2015, 16 Drake, I don't even know if we're getting that Cole verse because, you know, A, he might be like, fuck that, I'm not letting someone watch me on that song. But B, if someone did go that hard on his song, he's at least trying to come back. And he really gave Cole the floor. And I don't know. I agree with you. I don't hear the passion in his music. I don't hear the art in his music. I was actually looking back at my phone because I did a rating 1 through 10 for the Vultures project, Kanye and Ty Dolla. And I was looking back and I was like, you know, let me see what I put for this for All the Dogs album. And I actually did that 1 through 5, and it was pretty decently rated. Like there wasn't really many 1s or 2s per se, but it's not an album I go back to. And when I do hear it, when I do catch one, I do not hear, like you said, I don't hear the passion from Drake. It just really feels like I'm just doing this for the money. Like I know I could put out bullshit and everyone's going to listen to it. So it doesn't even matter what I put out. You know what I mean?
I agree.
You put SZA even on that Scorpion album, I think we're getting a better product. You know what I mean? Like 2018 Drake's giving you a better SZA feature, 2 SZA features, and we got mid from it, in my opinion.
To me, like, to be completely honest with you, the last Drake album that like I genuinely loved was Views. Because like he had good songs on there. Like he had Western Road Flows, You With Me, Feel No Ways.
Views itself was crazy. Like, he went off on like his outro, but like, he always goes off on the intro and outro. That's what you should expect. Except for this one. He didn't go off on this outro, which kind of really upset me. I wanted a Do Not Disturb. I wanted a View. I wanted The Ride. I wanted all of the like
he had.
I feel like that's
also. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you good.
Oh, I was gonna say, and also too on Views, that was when he kind of like unveiled Division, which is one of my favorite R&B groups or just R&B artists in general. But yeah, I think Views for me is like the last Drake album that like I genuinely like. Like I guess more life, but to me that was more like of a kind of like a mixed match of like random music that he threw together.
Playlist, he said. It's not an album. It's a playlist.
Like Scorpion, like After Dark with Static Major and Ty Dolla $ign, great song, amazing song. But like Views was the last Drake album that like I actually enjoyed.
That seems to be a common trope. Like that Views was the last one. I think Scorpion's the last album I really enjoyed from him. I don't feel like that was a well put together album either, but I do think the highs on it were super high. You know what I mean? Like you still got Nonstop. You mentioned After Dark. What else you got on there? You got Mob Ties. That's a great record. God's Plan. So I feel like the highs were good, but the album itself, it was just like, here you go. Like, here's some great music mixed with whatever I'm feeling at the time. So I agree with you there. I actually like More Life. That's one of my favorite Drake projects, but I agree with you. That one is kind of just sloppy. And like Keenan said, it's meant to be a playlist. You can almost blame him for the trajectory music has gone because of that album.
He does have Passion Fruit, and that's to me, I love Passion Fruit.
Beautiful song.
That's one of his best songs to me. But go on.
Yeah, you get a lot of. That's the thing with that album. You get a lot of 9 out of 10s, 10 out of 10s on that album.
Teenage Fever was good too. That was also a great song.
Teenage Fever.
Watch out for
there's a lot on there.
I'm about to glow.
That's an underrated song.
No, I actually.
You said you had a topic.
So yeah. I just wanted to say real quick again that I've listened to obviously First Person Shooter plenty of times. I've listened obviously to The Secret Recipe plenty of times, but I know you and I and Duke were talking about which verse is better to you guys. You guys said First Person Shooter. I actually said The Secret Recipe. And that's just because like my style of rap both of them I think they're both 10 out of 10. So you're really just picking what 10 do you like.
I'd probably agree. Honestly, I'd probably agree with you now.
Because I just the way he was talking on The Secret Recipe, like because on the first
he was talking on more arrogant shit on Secret Recipe.
He was.
So I think
just
I think if you remember, my gripe at the time with Secret Recipe was I couldn't hear the beat on Cole's verse. Like the beat went way quieter on his verse. But overall, I probably agree with you now. When I hear first person shooter now, I just honestly like it just sounds so directed to like high schoolers. Like the beat, like everything about it just kind of sounds juvenile. It's a great song and Cole fucking murks it. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I agree with you. I think Secret Recipe is more in my type of bag. So even if I said first person shooter at the time, I am now switching that.
I gotta go to
last
Secret
few
Recipe
times.
also.
Word.
That's bad.
Even
Like,
though
go on, Brandon.
I was gonna say I think first person shooter, like the verse is great, but like if you take J. Cole off that song and put anybody else on there, then that song's probably dog water. Like, but I think that
It's
is
not
a 10 out of
it's
10
not a
verse.
great beat.
He's
Not until the switch up, like the switch up for Drake's second part. I think that's a great beat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But the first person shooter beat itself it's all right.
No, it's solid, but I'm a fan of the Secret Recipe beat. Like those kind of beats are what I love. And like when I hear that, I want you to be braggadocious, but I don't need you to be in my face. And J. Cole was like braggadocious in your face, but also talking. And like that at this point in my life, that's what I love the most. And I honestly think that's because of battle rap and just like obviously there are a bunch of rounds where you're just like a bunch of double entendres, punchlines and things that are great, but it's the rounds like where someone's incorporating that, but just talking directly to you, which are the rounds that I feel the most. And I think that's more so what I felt Cole was doing there, like where you have the bars clearly, but then you get into that him also like really talking to you. And it's like, okay, all right, Cole, I see you, buddy. Like you just calm down. I get it.
All right, Jermaine.
All right, Jermaine Cole, please. Like, it's all right. But yeah, I think that it's hard. It's really going back. You could say J. Cole has like 3 or 4 of the top like 8 verses over the last like 3 years. Like, because you've got those two. You've got Johnny Peace Caddy. He absolutely killed that. And then it just depends on kind of where you want to go from there. Like There I Go is another great Cole verse, but obviously it's not one of like the best, but that's still a great
Pretty Little
Cole
Fears.
verse.
That like to me that's one of my favorite Cole verses. Like ever.
No, I agree. I love him on Boblo Boat. If we're going that a little bit far back, him on Boblo Boat is amazing. American Dream with Jeezy and Kendrick, which he should have rapped on it, but whatever. That's amazing too. Like there's so many Cole verses really since that American Dream one, because it was 2014 Forest Hills Drive, Long Break, For Your Eyes Only came out, Breakish, then American Dream. And from that point to now, you've been just getting Cole features killing it. And then KOD came out. That was a very good album. You got the Off Season. That was a great album. And then you've got 30 verses at least. You've got even songs like with J Hope. I can't. Oh, what's the name of it? Oh, my goodness gracious. I got to look.
Cole really seems like he's trying to separate himself. Like he really seems like on that. He seems like on that path of what Wayne was on in the mid 2000s, mid to late 2000s, where he was really like, I'm gonna make sure none of you guys put me in like any sort of category. Like I'm in my own category, and it seems like Cole, over the last, like you said, 4 or 5 plus years, has really made, especially over the last 3 years, has made a concerted effort to be like, I'm him. All right, when it comes to this rap shit, like
he's the best rapper alive right now. You have to say. I mean, you go with. Like, to me, obviously, if you're giving, like, one verse for your life and they're going to, like, you need this verse or you're going to die, who's going to have the best one? I still think Kendrick will have the best one. But, like...
That's a great topic.
That is.
That is a great topic.
But if you had,
one verse for your life?
One verse for your life.
I mean... Life?
One verse for your life right today, I'm giving...
Do I have to pick... Do I have to pick a version of someone, or does it have to be like today's version of them? Like they're gonna be as they are.
Wow! If it's a let's just
give me any version of that Lil Wayne run. Come on now.
Yes.
I'm
Lil
not
Wayne
gonna lie.
In 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010.
I don't know. See, because you have that. Give me peak Andre, peak Kendrick.
Jadakiss can give you.
Yes,
Jadakiss will never give you a whack verse.
If we're going with it, peak Drake even can give you like peak Drake really can give you like obviously because his totality makes it so his rapping, but like when you get to peak Drake
can bar you up.
He really can't. Obviously Jay-Z and then peak Eminem. Like you're like if you're gonna
Nas.
Yeah,
Nas, who only continues to get better at the age of 50 somehow.
Don't like if I had a verse for my life, I honestly think I'd have to give it to Kendrick right now. If I had a verse for my life,
let's squash that so we can do this Thursday because I mean that's a great topic. Wow. That's a great topic that I want to put thought into. I do want to touch on Keenan just because you mentioned KOD. That was another album I almost put on my most underrated list, but it's underrated in Cole's catalog, and I'm not sure how underrated it is in general. That's one I have no feel for as far as the public goes. But I feel the same way about that album as I do with Wins and Losses for Meek. It's one of my favorite J. Cole projects. It doesn't seem to rank that high for like the people who ride or die by J. Cole, but for me, it's up there.
Yeah, I like J. Cole a lot. I mean, not the J. Cole. I mean, I like KOD a lot, rather. Of course, I like J. Cole, but I like that.
I had two other ones. Like, okay, so my question to y'all, Nothing Was the Same. Would y'all consider that, like, just with how it's aged, like, would you consider it underrated? Like, is it
It's his best project, so if it's not rated that, then I would say it's underrated. Duke thinks it's mid, which he can get all the way out of there with that.
Oh yeah, he can. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he was talking about how it's not great. Like, listen, that's Drake's best project. Tuscan Leather,
Wu-Tang Forever. Like,
Hold On, We're Going Home is like his introduction. I mean, obviously, like
from
real R&B. Oh my God, Pound Cake. Are you kidding me?
305 to My City. Like,
listen, Worst Behavior.
City.
Connect is fire, but Worst Behavior might have been like the annoying worst, whatever. But the verse,
Come Through.
Oh, Come Through, and Furthest Thing are maybe my two favorite songs on that. Like, you can't tell me. Like, the only one that I don't really care for right now is Starter from the Bottom and All Me, and that's just because I heard them so much. But they're not bad songs by any. Like, first time hearing Starter from the Bottom, I was like, okay, I get it. And then All Me, you're like, oh, shut the... You're like, hey, Big Sean, go. I got way too much in my mental. I learned from what I've been through. It's like, okay.
That's a decent album.
I got that work.
That's, there's so many albums like that just almost disappear. Like, I feel the same way, like...
Yeah.
Like, I feel this way, not to take it to a different decade, but I feel this way about Late Registration by Kanye. You just don't hear it talked about.
It's better than College Dropout, but like, to me, it's better than College Dropout. For me, it's Graduation's my favorite.
I don't know if it's better than College Dropout. See, I personally would not have it ranked ahead of College Dropout, but I think it's a super dope album. But it's not one I'm rushing to. It's not one I'm rushing to immediately. But it's not, for whatever reason. Like, weirdly, and I think I said this, Keenan, when we did our Kanye, which we got to do this, continue to do this, our albums from different artists. When we did our Kanye album, I think we did like a brief ranking, and like Pablo's like 2 or 3 for me now, which it never like when it first came out, I was like whatever about Pablo, and now it's one of my favorite Kanye projects.
Let me just name some of the songs on Late Registration. We forget. Heard him say, no, I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying all together. Heard him say, Touch the Sky, Gold Digger, Drive Slow, Crack Music, Roses, Diamonds, We Major, Hey Mama.
Oh, it's great. It's all time great.
Diamonds from Sierra Leone.
Diamonds, like, listen.
And like, the remix, and the whole remix.
I'm not a businessman. I'm a business man. Let me know like... See me, I don't know if that's a hot take. I hope it's not, but like, if it is, whatever.
No, I think people from that era, like, they long for that. For them, it's probably Dropout, Late Registration, and you know what I mean. Anything pre 808s for
Graduation
a certain
for
segment.
me is his I'm fine if people say My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is his best. Graduation's my favorite, so I think in turn that would mean it's his best, in my opinion. But like, it's weird because like I completely understand when people say My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I get it. Like, there's no arguments for me there. But mine's Graduation. I don't think.
Yeah,
they're just
two different
Hot Girls. There's not a skip.
They're two completely different projects. Like Graduation is essentially a perfect album, right? Like it's much more condensed than the first two albums, and it's nothing but classics on there, really. Like you said, most of the skips would be for Drunken Hot Girls, and people hate Barry Bonds for some reason.
I think Barry Bonds
overall,
I think that's a good song.
It is a good song. I think what it is that was Wayne at his like absolute hottest, and he gave you a okay verse, a good verse, not what you're expecting from Wayne on a Kanye project. Yeah. And then
you see peak Kanye and peak Lil Wayne together, or like one of peak Kanye's and peak Lil Wayne together, and you think that it's gonna be song of the year, and it's decent. It's like maybe the 10th best song on the album, and you're like, it's not. It comes right after Can't Tell Me Nothing, so you're like, oh, we're this high, and then you're like,
Can't Tell Me Nothing. It's much like Black Republicans with Jay-Z and Nas. That one didn't deliver. You know what I mean? You see Jay-Z and Nas, and you're like, oh, but it just didn't deliver the way it should. So I think that's why people dislike it. But yeah, I agree with both of y'all. Like that's a good song overall. Mm-hmm. But to compare that to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, I mean, that's an album that sounds exactly like the title of its name. You know what I mean? It's just so glamorous. It's the cousin to Watch the Throne. Like it's peak rich music. Like that album sounds like $1 billion. And
not yet.
And there's some weird ass music on there. Like I would say it's probably a better project. It's probably a better effort. How do I word this? I don't want to say it's a better effort than Graduation. There was definitely more effort into the production, but Graduation's like incredible production. You're always going to get incredible production from Kanye. But My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, there was so much that was put into that. It's probably a more quality album than Graduation, just production wise. But what's better to listen to? Graduation, of course. Like you can just sit and listen to that any time of day. Whereas, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, that's one of my favorite albums ever. I don't go back and listen to it a ton. Exactly. I don't listen to it as a whole, as a movie. I'll go back and listen to like Runaway and the shit with Ross back to back.
Gorgeous.
Devil in a New Dress.
Devil in a New Dress. Trinity, shout out to you for liking that song randomly.
Shouts to Trin. Yeah,
I listen to Dark Fantasy, Power, All the Lights. Like I listen
Dark Fantasy is super underrated. Dark Fantasy is super.
I love Nicki's intro, by the way. I do love Nicki's intro. And then obviously Nicki had one of the best verses on it with Monster. Yeah.
Peak Nicki right there.
That was peak Nicki, because that's Pink Friday time Nicki too, and that fire.
Yeah.
I just want
great album.
Which is why Young Money in 2010, you had that Nicki with like Take Care Drake with no ceilings to that Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne became like the low light of that just because that was Truck Fit Wayne. But then again, it was Lil Wayne. So it was like, what?
I do want to say one thing about Lil Wayne. I think it's one of my favorite projects by him. I think one of his most underrated projects, like albums and mixtapes aside, is the Carter 4. Because I feel like the quality of music on there is just amazing. Like
think it has, yeah.
There's no skips on that album for me at all. Not a single skip.
Bottom.
I think Nightmares from the Bottom may be his most underrated song ever. That is one of my favorite Lil Wayne songs.
Carter.
I remember when I played that, Kyle, at one point you're like, I wish I would have given this more attention at the time. This was a few years back.
No, yeah, I remember. I was going to say that. Like when it came out, I listened to it. I liked it, but I don't think it was what I wanted to hear for some reason. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it was.
Well, because you heard songs like Blunt Blowing, so it felt North Country to you. I think that's kind of what happened.
I think the lyrics weren't where I wanted it. You know what I mean? It wasn't like Wayne wasn't going necessarily crazy on it, whereas much as he was like kind of like storytelling, you know what I mean? So I think what I wanted to hear was more like mixtape Wayne.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that, but it was still, like you said, it was still high quality Wayne music, right? And good beats on that album. Like, it was definitely a well-produced album. So yeah, that is one I slept on. That's certainly an album.
Everybody want to be flying until you swat them. Listen, that's one of my favorite. But all right, I'm really glad that we brought in the verse for your life. I think that's going to be a super fun topic next pod. I don't know. Does anyone have anything else for this one? Like, anyone want to touch upon anything else? I know, Branndon, it's late for you. I know you got work in the morning. I get that, but I don't know if anyone had anything else. This has been fun. It's been less loud with Duke.
There was one album. So there was one album that I feel like also with Wale, and that's the album About Nothing. That's a beautiful album. Like, I feel like that, even when it came out, like it didn't get the national attention that I think it deserved. Because it was, I mean, from front to back, I think there's 12, 13 tracks on there. You had the song with SZA, you had the song with Usher,
the Matrimony. So
yeah,
was
like,
sure. Yeah.
It was a different album, but it was good. Like, it was very good to me.
I agree. I did like that album a lot.
Like, I think he's just like, I really think he's one of the most underrated artists of like the 2010s, like, as a whole. And I think you can make a strong case for him being the most underrated.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah,
he's
absolutely.
Got a case. He's definitely got a case.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially because he was always building that group, like with that group of Sean, Cole, Drake, Wiz Khalifa. Like, all of them were supposed to be stars, and they all were. And Meek, throw Meek in there, Nipsey, like, they were all supposed to be stars, and they were in their own right. Like, Wale has his like niche fan base, but he's also just not. It's not underground. Like, he's more mainstream than underground, but he's not mainstream like Drake either. So, like, it's weird how that group panned out. Like, I mean, I don't know how that whole entire era does if they come 5 years earlier. You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's dope that they all get to have their shine and get to have their niche audience like that, like Wale, like him being able to do a Seinfeld mixtape series like that. Because, yeah, I don't know how that plays in 2004, 2006.
I do have a quick question now off of that. Do you think Meek is part of the reason why Wale is not Wale? Because you have
Could
obviously
be, because they're on the same
Yeah.
label.
Because you have
It
Rick
could
Ross,
be.
and then you have songs like "I'm a Boss" that comes out, and that's like that's a hit. You have that "Believe It" with Rick Ross. Like, you have like Ross and Meek became like the top two, and then like that third star on a team, like that Chris Bosh, that's a super great player. He's 24-10 off, and then you just like on the same team, someone has to take a back seat, and you have Ross, who is the LeBron of that, Meek Mill, who's the weight of that. And then so Chris Bosh takes the back seat kind of thing.
Yeah.
It could be. Like, I think, though, like, in the same breath, I feel like Wale never wanted to be like where Drake is. And I feel like Wale really reached his potential. And I feel like Brandon's a big fan of it's something about, or what? What's the project called?
The album About Nothing.
Mixtape About Nothing.
Album About Nothing.
Yeah.
Album About Nothing. Yeah. You know, I feel like that reached the people it was supposed to reach. Like, the people who swear by Wale, like, will ride or die for him. You know what I mean? Like, even the ones who don't listen to him religiously, like, if they feel like he was better than an artist like Meek, like, they're gonna die on that. Like, people love, like, Esteban Ramos. He's a big Wale fan, and you probably can't tell him nothing about like Wale compared to, you know, pick a mainstream rapper. You know what I mean? Like, or like a J. Cole, he'd say like he could probably go toe to toe with J. Cole at his best. You know what I mean?
Him.
So
they
I
have
think
multiple
like
songs together.
Right. So I think Wale's like right where he wanted to be, whereas maybe Big Sean even was supposed to be a little bigger, right? Like he was having the Kanye cosign. But it seems like honestly all those artists that came up that were supposed to be stars became stars in their own right. They just all went different lanes. So it's a wildly successful.
I feel like Drake and Kendrick were the only, and then probably Cole are like the only ones that became like true mega stars out of that whole group when there could have been more. Like I feel like Big Sean almost was there because I think that he had like the Detroit and then he had the Dark Sky Paradise, but I think became underrated. But a song like One Man Can Change the World kind of like in the public eye already bumps you up, and then he has obviously I don't like you have those so he has like a lot of hits, Blessings with Drake off that, and I think that just I don't know, like it was weird.
I think
after that,
I think the streaming era just changed things so much to where it just made, like I said, it made you able to have stars of different ilks. So I think all of them in some way reached their potential because they all put out dope music. Like not a one of those guys. Like I said, Drake, Meek, Cole, Kendrick, Nipsey, Wale, all those guys, Big Sean, Mac Miller, every one of them put out quality music. Like up until the point, like in Mac's case and Nipsey's case, to where they untimely passed. But like everyone else still is putting out quality music to this day. Like Drake, we might not want to hear some of the shit he's putting out, but he's still putting out quality music. Like everyone, you can't say any one of them fell off. Like maybe they got less relevant, but in Sean's case, still putting out good music. He had that 2088 album with Janae. Wale still anytime he's a feature, like he kills it. Like not a one of them fell off.
Poke It Out came out only a couple of years ago, and that was a really good song. Like, I mean, that's just like a bigger song too, because like a lot that did well chart wise, and actually was a pretty popular song. So,
yeah,
is that Nicki? Poke It Out?
No, Poke It Out's with J. Cole, Wale and J. Cole, and then also they have My Boy.
I was thinking about Nicki and Carti.
Oh, I don't know if that could be a song. I personally don't know that song, but I was talking Wale
too.
But yeah, no, Wale and Cole actually have multiple songs together, and yeah. But yeah,
Slight work, Sean and Wale.
Big
Sean kills that verse.
Under 25.
Let me
life.
You guys want me to give you my list of the underrated albums? Should I save that for next time? Just like run through it real quick.
Sure. I mean, you can give your list, Brandon. I can give a list because I have multiple, and then we can just go on because we can talk about the best albums because we really haven't talked about the best albums much. We've just talked about, but go on.
I'll go in reverse order, and I mean, as we just found out, like we just named off countless other albums we thought or projects we thought were underrated, but I had 11 here. Fabulous Young OG Project, J-Rock Redemption.
That was on
gave you the two Jeremiah projects, the one with Ty Dolla and then Late Nights. I had Nas Life is Good.
That was on mine too.
Great Nas album, but I think it just grew to be underrated just because of the albums he put out. Sir Chasing Summer. St. John, Ghetto Lenny's Love Songs, 2019 release.
Great album.
Ray Sremmer, Srem, the third album. So it's Srem with a 3 there. That's like a triple album. There's a lot of music on there, but there's a lot of good music. Party Next Door 2, his second album. And then second on my list, number one, I had the A$AP Ferg album, but second on my list is the Travis Scott and Quavo collab album, Huncho Jack Huncho. I don't know why that album's like panned and slept on, but that's got some incredible music on there.
It never blew up.
Incredibly slept on.
No,
album.
It did not. And you would have thought with two artists of that nature, they would have really gone.
Especially at that time too, because like that was
they were both.
Quavo was killing like every hook and like everything.
They were hot. They were each hot as fish grease. Like that was after Birds in the Trap, and like you said, Quavo was on every feature. I think it was after Culture, definitely after Culture.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why it did not pop off, and it's not even like there's whack music on there. There's legitimately good music, some of the best music I think those two have put out. So definitely worth go back and check it out, or go back and listen for y'all. But yeah, that's my 11.
I'll quickly go through mine here. I have 10. I have a few of them already said, but Drake Views was on mine. I think that Views has become underrated. I think it's very good. Maybe to other people if it's not, but I don't know. To me, it's felt a little underrated for what it was, because I don't think people would ever consider it even close to a classic. I don't think. I mean, he's already said Views already a classic and hype, but
it was so huge when it came out though. Like that was like. I think that's one of the highest streamed albums of the decade.
It was like because I feel like it was super high, and then it went like low, and then I feel like Views is now becoming better because his projects are getting worse. Yeah. So Views is becoming better. Like that, it's been it's been like a weird dip. So it may not be underrated for people, but like I think for me personally, it became underrated because I think I underrated it myself. If I'm
my thing with Drake is all of his releases are so amped up. The only one I could think of that would be like underrated would be something like Dark Lane demo tapes,
which I like a lot.
Because that was like it was a quieter release and it was like a different kind of content.
If you're reading this, wasn't that a little quieter?
It was a mixtape.
That was a surprise drop, but that shit was like inescapable when it came out. Like,
oh yeah, like Legend.
Everybody and their grandmoms was playing that shit. So
also, I just want to also say here too, 6 p.m. in New York to me is his best time and place. When I know people love 4 a.m. in Calabasas, and that's right there with it. But 6 p.m. in New York is my favorite.
6 p.m. in New York, it's on fire.
Yeah, take shots at Kendrick and Kanye on it, just little ones. But yeah, Wale Gifted was on mine. Shout out to me liking Christian rap. Lecrae, All Things Work Together. I think people should listen to that. Lecrae is actually fire. I had Mac Miller watching movies with the sound off. I had Childish Gambino Camp, so we talked about those. Big Sean, I Decided was on there. Joey Badass, Before the Money. Kanye West, Life of Pablo. I think sometimes that can be slept on about how great of music that is. J-Rock Redemption, as Kyle had just alluded to, and one of them for me was Logic, The Incredible True Story. I think that because of who Logic was after everybody, the black and white rapper, I don't want to be like everyone was like, oh, he's just a guy who talks half white, half black, blah blah blah. I think
is this guy's race?
No, I was gonna say because of that, I think that people sleep on Under Pressure and The Incredible True Story. The production on Incredible True Story is like, it's well produced. He has a lot of great music on those two. So if anyone listens to early Logic, I would suggest to listen to that. And the latest of Logic, I think he's now doing more music for himself and has gotten out of the pandering, I would call it. But yeah, no, I think The Incredible True Story is really good. And 10 Day Chance, if we're talking mixtape, I think 10 Day is a very underrated Chance mixtape. I think that's great.
Shouts to Vanchi, who was a longtime listener of the show, who was very surprised, Keenan, that you did not have Lecrae and Chance on your collab albums, which definitely makes sense.
That, you know what? Shout out, because that is really shocking with me, because I really love Lecrae and Chance. I would love Lecrae and also Andy really offended to get together, but yeah, sorry.
She also gets really defensive that you repeatedly call San Francisco San Fran, but that's a
discussion for
another day.
I know, because she posts on the thing and they say San Francisco. I will stop saying San Fran. Alrighty. Well, Branndon, thank you.
I think Brandon's
Kyle, of course. Warner Brothas Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on TikTok. You can follow us on Twitter. Twitter is not really live, but whatever. YouTube, Warner Brothas Podcast. Live Take That's Cash Show. This is Keenan Warner. And we're out.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. We're out.
Like a man.